Hey everyone, Pat Mesiti here, live at 5. And trust whether you're on Facebook, whether you are on YouTube, that you enjoy this session. And we'll wait for some people to stream on. Obviously, nowadays with the new technology we've got, we're able to go on various platforms. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Last night I shared a little bit on some of the more recent events last week, but I want to focus today on something vitally important. I've tried to the best of my ability all my life, whether I was doing full-time ministry or whether it was marketplace or both, to really stay away from politics. I realize people have different political persuasions, and I respect everybody's right to their own political persuasion. As a matter of fact, I respect everyone's right to free speech and beliefs. Of course, free speech within certain limits, unless it involves hate, unless it involves abuse, unless it involves vilification, unless it involves the kind of things I'm talking about right now that are happening to things like the police, that are happening to things like good people of good standing, like, for example, people of belief, or people who are what we might say on the right. Now, I don't see myself as a right or a left. And my spiritual mum said to me, Pat, you just got to stand for truth. And one of the truths of life is this: there are givers and there are takers in life. There are givers and there are takers. There are people that are like leeches that want to take and take and take and take and take. And when you have that kind of mentality, your reasoning goes out the window. You have a sense of entitlement, a sense of that, you've been hard done by. So now I'm going to take from you, even what you may have worked for, I'm going to take it from you. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I haven't really worked hard for it, but I just want it taken from you. Had an interesting thing as I was watching through the news the other, just a little while ago, and I was watching how some politicians of the United States of the Democratic Party said that things like Mount Rushmore are actual monuments to white supremacy. These people are absolute idiots. They are crazy. And if these people are put in power, God help us all. Nancy Pelosi couldn't even get George Floyd's name right. She called him George Kirby. Today I was listening to Joe Biden. After 89 days, he finally comes into a press conference and they give him these sugar-coated questions, and they ask him about his cognitive ability and have you been tested? He goes, I'm testing all the time. And when you talk to him about his agenda to help the country, it doesn't make sense. And the reason why a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense is because their whole basis is to take. It's not to give. Now, mind you, I know some people on the right that are takers as well. But I want to speak to you today about the spirit of contribution. When you've got things like rioters and protesters, and you see people that go on strike for more pay, they don't want to work anymore. They don't want to work any harder. They just want more pay because it's just, they want to get rich by demand. I don't know how that system works. I certainly wasn't raised on that system. I find that these people, they actually erode away at the moral fiber of a country, a workplace, an environment. I pray you're not that kind of person. I hope you're the kind of person that is a contributor. The greatest work you can do in life is to bend down and pick someone up. The greatest human endeavor you can do is give, is ignite in someone life. You see, in life, I really believe there are certain things you can contribute. Number one, you can contribute of your time. You certainly can contribute of your talent. You certainly can contribute of your heart. And you certainly can contribute of your touch and your treasure. What I'm finding that's happening today is it's take. I watched an interesting viewpoint about the whole defunding the police. And the question was asked by one of these stupid, brainless rioters. They asked him, the guy says, why should police work overtime? And the reporter said, because they actually work overtime. And he went, He didn't even know what the argument about. People saying defund the police. Do you realize it's in the poorer, more violent areas of any city where you need more policing, not less? I heard one guy say, 85% of police are corrupt. Well, I've never found that out. I've never seen that to be the truth. Believe you me, I've never seen that to be the truth. Just like I wouldn't say that 85% of politicians are all corrupt. Let's leave that one alone, shall we? It's like saying that 85% of all preachers or councilmen are corrupt. See, people throw out these statements and they do it from not a basis of, I want to contribute and build society. I want to take from society is the heart. They have no plan. They have no strategy. They have no structure. I said last night, anarchy has no reason. Anarchy has no reason. And anyone that is hell-bent on taking is going to corrupt the culture economically, spiritually, socially, and mentally. People are exhausted by takers. You see, there has never been a monument erected to a taker. All these people complaining about monuments and statues, it wasn't the Captain Cook or the Jeffersons or the Abraham Lincoln that built their monuments. It's the people they helped. Matter of fact, in America, some of those statues were actually built by the slaves themselves in thanking people. Why would you desecrate a monument to Abraham Lincoln, who started a war over this whole issue? And again, what many people don't realize is sometimes when people were in slavery, they were treated better than what they were. Now there are, and again, I'm going to get roasted for this. There were the people that were abused. Don't get me wrong, or raped and all that other kind. I believe, I know all that. But people start to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and all of a sudden it doesn't become about racism. It becomes about police. It becomes about anarchy. It becomes about taking. Can I submit to you that we flick the switch? Can I submit to you that we learn a new way of doing life, and that is contributing? Contributors don't riot, they build. Contributors, watch this, have discovered that the meaning in life is not in anything else but donation. Donation of your heart, donation of your time, donation of your gifts, donation of your finances. You see, the more you share, the more you add, the more you give, the more you get back. Oftentimes people go, I have nothing, I've got nothing. Well, let me ask you a question. What have you given? I know that might sound awfully harsh, but what have you given? Of your time, your talent, your touch, your treasure? Now, I know that might irritate some people, but I understand the principle. If you give, it comes back to you. So I'm often left with this, the confusing part is, why is this not working in some people's lives? Well, then we look at their actions and they're taking. Do you know, I've discovered that people want to take a whole bunch of stuff from you. Number one, they want to take your mental stability. I'm watching the news right now. We went from COVID-19, all the crazy pandemic, to the riots and everything and the whole joy flood. Now we're back with COVID-19. But wait, there's another pandemic found in pigs. Could jump into people. Do you see what's happening, people? The whole goal is to dismantle your mental state, bringing confusion, bringing exhaustion. This is why we have to be people that fight for what's right and not give up, to expose untruths. I have noticed something. No one is dying of anything else these days. I haven't seen a statistic. Cancer, kidney failure, suicide, they're hiding that one. And I really believe for many of us, we've got to stand up to these takers of our mental state and say enough's enough. It's there to disturb you spiritually, to move you from your moral north. Now, I'm of Christian faith, and I say to people, hey, I'm a sheep, but I got black spots, and I got, with my hands, I got no rocks to throw at anyone, or no stones here to throw at anyone. But once we strip away of moral law, we end up in anarchy, we end up in confusion. Strong morals and strong values in a nation, in a culture, in a workplace are not anchored by the removal of boundaries and law. It is enforced. There's a reason, as much as I don't like it, there's a 60-kilometre speed limit out there. There's a reason why it says 100 when I want to go 140. It's to maintain some sense of order. Now, not all order is perfect. There is only one order that is perfect, and that is the law of God. That is the law of God. But we have morals in our country to help us not be restrained, but to free us. These laws have been given. They're a contribution from people. And when you erode away from those things, what happens? Lawlessness creeps in. Confusion creeps in. Anarchy creeps in. Rebellion. I don't care which way you look at rebellion, whether it's in a child or whether it's in a protester. Good book says it's a sin of witchcraft. Now, don't get mad at me. I didn't say that. Someone higher than me said that. Now, I believe the contributors are kind of people that are holy rebels. They do it with a good spirit. When people take, they give. And they give joyfully. Isn't it interesting that one of the most famous sayings is, God loves a cheerful giver? I'm noticing a lot of these people today screaming and yelling, they're not very cheerful. Do you know why? Because they're not givers. They're takers. Contribution is doing something, watch this, and not expecting a return from the person I help. I can expect my return from other areas in life. Contribution is not only giving what we have, but contribution is giving what you are. We give more than what we have. We need to give of what we are. And with that in mind, we must be careful what we are giving. If we're giving fear, if we're giving anarchy, if we are giving trouble, if we're giving disloyalty, if we are giving rebellion, I'm telling you, the fruit of that tree leads to destruction. I believe contribution is an inside job. Oftentimes, if you're not generous with your words, you're probably not generous with your money. If you're not generous with the little you have, why would you be generous with the much that you would be blessed with? The book of life says that he who is faithful in the least is faithful in much. Remember, it starts with the least, not in the much. You want more. You want more. And oftentimes, people go, oh, that song, you just take more than you give. Well, how do you know that? How do you know that? You don't know that. You must never criticize a man's harvest when you've never seen the seeds they have sown. Oh, look at that guy, he's out there, he's wealthy. Yeah, but you know what? He's working 19, 20 hours a day while you're getting up at the crack of noon. You see, I really believe contributors don't speak that way, they don't act like that way, and they certainly don't talk that way. You see, I believe that the greatness of the human soul is in kindness. I believe, as Albert Schultz said, constant kindness can accomplish much. As the sun makes ice melt, kindness causes misunderstanding, mistrust, and hostility to evaporate. I often wonder, where are all these people that preach love and joy and peace, except when they don't get their own way? I remember in the last presidential elections when President Donald Trump won the election, when everyone else, it was going to be the first female president, landslide victory. Did you see the writing? Did you see how all of a sudden they flipped and manifested their heart? That was there all the time. And it's still there now. Have a look what's happening in America. Have a look what's happening in our streets. You see, these issues are not issues of a country or a nation. It's an issue of the human spirit. And it's an issue of right and wrong. There is no right way to do a wrong thing. And we must do what's right, even if no one is doing it. and we must not do what's wrong, even if everybody's doing it. I know this is not a preaching format, but I can't help myself. Jesus said, the gay way to heaven is narrow, but the pathway to destruction is wide. I'm wondering whether these broadening of our moral, emotional, and spiritual highways are leading to a path other than the narrow path. When you broaden the highway, you make room for problems. Diamonds are rare, that's why they are valuable. Gold is rare, that's why it is valuable. Love is rare, that's why it is valuable. Anarchy, craziness, taking is rampant among everywhere. If you look at the people that have been our heroes over the last several hundred years, the Mother Teresas, the Nelson Mandelas, the Gandhis, the Bishop Desmond Tutus, they've been contributors. The Martin Luther King, in spite, by the way, of some of his moral challenges, he still led with the spirit of giving. My encouragement to you is to be a contributor. John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what your country will do for you, but what can you do for your country? Don't ask what your family will do for you, but what can you do for your family? Don't ask what your boss can do for you, but what can you do for your boss? Don't ask what your church can do, but what can you do for your church? Don't ask what your local council can do, but what can you do for them? I was interested to watch some of these beautiful young African-American young people and white, although I hate using those terms, cleaning up the streets. I never saw one anarchist do it. They just moved from town to town like the parasites and takers and they are moral, spiritual, and financial rapists. A rapist is not a contributor. They take what is not theirs and lord through fear, through anarchy, through punishment, and through terror. The spirit of contribution operates through love, through peace, through rightness. Yes, it is vocal, but it walks a higher ground. Every time they walk the higher road. And my encouragement to you is to be the kind of people that walk the higher road. Just remember, there was never a statue erected to a taker unless they or their party did it themselves. Interestingly, the statues of the Lincolns and all that in the United States are torn down, while the statues of Lenin are still held up. I think we need a reassessment and become contributors. Well, guys, live at 5 here, Pat Mesiti. I've had my 15 minutes here tonight. Please go to our YouTube channel, press like and subscribe. And if you're not part of our Reborn channel, 8 a.m. this Sunday, going to be bringing a great message. Tomorrow night, we'll be back here live at 5 every night this week. Hey, guys, still running that competition. I wanted to change the name Live at 5. Some people have said, Pat, there's nothing wrong with Live at 5. Keep the name. I thought I might have called it The Sit Down. But, hey, if you've got any ideas, send them through us, inbox them or YouTube to us. Love to hear from you. Please like, subscribe, and share. This is Pat Mesiti. You have a prosperous life.